Hey there, gang. So the purpose of today's video is I'm looking to just have a bit of a conversation with you guys about my thoughts on how some of my matches have felt recently. We're also going to be taking a look into a couple of my matches and doing a bit of an analysis. But overall, I've just been rather dissatisfied with how the experience in my games have felt. I've felt like not only have I lacked an agency, but also that there's not a whole lot in my favor when I go into my games. I feel like I'm slated from the get-go to lose some of my games literally just as they begin. Whether it's a combination of the perks or add-ons I chose to bring, whether it's a combination of that in tandem with what the survivors chose to bring, what map we end up playing on, which a lot of times recently has not even been a result of the survivors bringing offerings. I have just been going to the worst maps imaginable just by happenstance, out of my control beyond taking a map offering myself and not taking a BP offering like everyone else, right? That's kind of just another big part of the problem is that I basically am now starting to feel like I have to start bringing map offerings, right? You should never feel that way as a killer, and let alone a low tier killer, right? Because that just pushes you more toward the higher tier killers, but I digress. That is kind of what we're going to look to talk about here today. For those that don't know about me, I am for the most part, a clown only main, for the most part. I've been dabbling recently with some Chucky, but I am Prestige 100. I've been playing clown for probably the last 2 years, mostly only clown. I have probably over 3,000, maybe 3,500 hours on clown alone. Clown alone, just playing clown. That's kind of what my add-ons I hope should demonstrate. I've probably spent well over 200 billion blood points on clown. I have some friends in the comp DBD scene. I have scrimmed with people in the comp scene, so I actually have some experience and understanding of what really strong high-level survivors can do. I have gone against some very strong survivors in the comp scene just in my pub matches due to high MMR, and that should hopefully set a bit of a basis with respect to where it is the background that I'm talking about and my own experiences in my own matches and why it is that we're doing this video today and that I'm having this talk with you guys, okay? So let's start off with talking about survivor generator repair speeds, as I believe that could be considered in some ways central to the problem that Clown has when it comes to his viability overall as a killer. While Clown has very strong chase potential, and in a lot of ways he doesn't even need to kick pallets in order to hit survivors and convert downs and then afterward hooks, his issue is that he lacks in any and all forms of map mobility. In order to apply map pressure in a manner that doesn't put you behind in chase, you have to play as Trapper. You have to just cross the map as a 115% speed and one killer because any bottles that you use in order to get extra map mobility is only going to set you behind when it comes to chasing whatever survivors will be at your destination. And it's a result of this lack of map mobility that you'll find strong and coordinated survivors when they know they're against a clown. They are going to all be on generators, whoever is not actively engaged with the clown himself. So whoever clown decides to chase, everyone else is going to be, they're going to be thinking to themselves, okay, well, clown isn't on me, he's on my teammate. I'm just going to hope my teammate does well. And as long as they do well in chase, and they play safe, and I sit on this generator, clown's not going to be able to keep up with that momentum. And a big part about what makes that true is that what is going on right now when it comes to Dead by Daylight and what makes a lot of lower tier killers unviable is you have an imbalanced proportionality with respect to generator completion times versus chase times, and afterward you could say hooking times. See, in order to actually get lasting pressure as clown, you have to, for one thing, you have to find a survivor. And that ties into another big part of the issue. But once you find the survivor, you have to initiate the chase. You have to hit them once, continue the chase, hit them a second time, clean your weapon, pick them up, carry them to the hook, hook them. There's your pressure. And one element of getting that pressure that a lot of people discount is everything else that takes place in the background beyond the actual chase. A lot of people just see they just mostly look at how quickly it takes you to down the survivor. But really the biggest problem with killers like Clown is that First, again, you got to clean your weapon. You got to pick up the survivor. You got to carry him to a hook. You got to hook him. And then after that, we're back to 115% movement speed. We're now trying to start our next chase without any assistance to get that started. So what does that mean if you have survivors that recognize your lack of mobility and they're working on these generators? It means that if they have especially very close, they're not getting on that generator if they know it can get completed. A lot of times what's going to happen is you will down a survivor, you will hook them, you will be moving as fast as you can in order to start your next chase with the survivor who is working on a generator. You know that they are there. But as a result of just not having any map mobility, that generator gets completed because those survivors had no fear of you having any way of pushing them off that generator at any point before that period of time. Because, again, it's a lack of map mobility. And while Clown has strong chase, there are ways, too, that really nullify that and also just enable survivors to get even more efficiency out of their gens. And we'll also get to that in just a minute. Let's talk a little bit more about how survivor efficiency currently is at the moment. So one of the biggest problems with survivors' efficiency is they start on their generators. Clown, as a low mobility killer, you don't start near survivors you need to pressure, but survivors are going to spawn on the generators that they need to repair to get out the gates. And this means that the moment you start your trial as Clown, you are immediately on a hard timer in order to find your first survivor and have a quick chase. You need to find someone very soon. You need to hit them very soon. You need to continue that chase and down them very soon. Because if this doesn't happen, then you're looking at, very typically, 2 generators, first chase. Because whether the other survivor is somewhat near your proximity, the person that you're chasing, so they're not actively on a generator, you did apply some type of side pressure that pushed them off, there are very likely going to be the other 2 survivors that are on generators from the beginning, and they will get those gens completed, and you will now be at 60% of your objective defense from the very beginning. See, the time it takes to find the survivor, I would say, in my opinion, is probably one of the biggest problems by comparison, because it's a result of the fact that you as a low mobility killer have to find the survivor to begin with that forces a lot of people who play Clown to feel like they need to run builds like these. Because you need to have Corrupt, and especially you need to have Deadlock. If you don't have Corrupt Intervention when you load into a match on Clown, and especially if you're not running Cigar Box, which means you don't have any means of actually finding that survivor who doesn't present themselves to you opportunistically, you are absolutely looking at 2 gens, maybe more first chase. Because by the time you start that first chase, by the time you do get that down, you would have nothing to stop the other survivors. Because again, you are one person, you have no means of presence, beyond your initial presence, I should say, right? You as a person are the only way you apply pressure, and survivors are all over the map. The moment the game begins, they're doing what they need to do. And that's why people run this perk. This perk, in my opinion, I feel like it needs to be Basekit. The fact that survivors have that level of pressure on their objective out the gate, and the fact that Clown has to go look for the survivors, that already, I think, is what holds him back. I'm not saying, obviously, the full value of the perk, but I think this is, for one thing, a huge stepping stone and something that does put this killer below other killers. Because what happens if I take this perk? Think about it like this. If people feel like they need to run Corrupt Intervention to deal with the how survivors spawn on their generators at the beginning of the match, that's 3 perk slots. I now have 3 perk slots remaining for my build. Which means the variety in my build already goes down, but it gives me less flexibility to work with when I play this killer. So if I'm basically going to play Clown, right? Let's assume I'm looking at the roster and I'm not just Clown only main. Let's assume I'm like, do I want to play Clown? I already know I need to take this perk, which means that I'm going into my Clown matches knowing that I can play around with 3 perks. Except, wait a minute. Because we were talking about, remember how I said 2 gens first chase? If you want to partially prevent that 2 gens first chase, especially if you do have a bit of a rough early game in the survivors, you are going against good survivors who rotate to your uncompleted gens, you need Deadlock. I've had, and I'm not even kidding, I've had survivors that have done 1.5 gens during the first time of Corrupt because I had survivors who applied very strong and very easily accessible counterplay. We'll get into that in a bit. And by the time I did down them, because I was playing against a strong team, they had 1.5 gens done with Corrupt active because they rotated to the generators that aren't blocked. And in order to stop them from working on that second gen, because they did get one completed, that's where Deadlock came in. I had Deadlock giving me value, basically, while Corrupt was still active. And that's basically what its role is. Its role is to turn 2 gen first chase, assuming it was to happen, to maybe 1.5 gen first chase. Or maybe something, it would probably be a little bit more equivalent if the 2 gens were already, the second one was close to popping, and it just delays it by 30 seconds. But that's why people run this perk. So already we're starting off the match. Excuse me, we're starting off loading into our theoretical clown scenario of wanting to play clown. And we are taking one perk to block the gens at the beginning of the game. We are taking another perk to stall them out in the middle of the game. That leaves me with 2 perks. I now have 2 perks to play around with my build. And typically, depending on who you are, a lot of people feel like they need some support in chase. You know, personally, I opt for coup de grace, right? That's what I find maybe doing the most. But, you know, some people opt for save the best for last. There is a little bit of variety there, but as a result of having to take Corrupt intervention and Deadlock, we're not really left with a whole lot of flexibility with our other 2 perk slots. So let's say you take that one chase perk, that Stabiffle, that coup de grace, brutal strength. I mean, I really don't opt for it, but some people take it, which is kind of the point I'm making, right? You take that for this 3rd perk, now you've got 1 perk left. You basically is clown, or is any low tier killer even in some senses. You're going into your matches with only 2 perk slots to play around with because these others have to just be dedicated to slowing down the speed of the game, how quickly survivors push through their objective. And that is something that isn't even hinged on survivors bringing toolboxes or even bringing even perks like hyper focus or stakeout. It's just how quickly they naturally progress things, okay? And this culminates too. This ultimately is what pushes clown to camping and tunneling. Because if I don't have the information as clown to know if a generator is going to be completed after I down and hook a survivor, if I don't know if I'm going to make it in time to do anything, that means I'm not going to be pressuring my generators because I don't have the map mobility. And what happens if I go to pressure that generator and then one of the teammates that I'm not aware of that was nearby the hook unhooks their teammate? I now am lost on the objective of the generator. I'm not able to apply any presence or pressure there. And I now lost whatever I had that I could defend on the hook. I'm left with nothing. I'm now left further behind. So as a result, you see people camping with clown. They can't do anything else. And then what do they do after that? They tunnel. Because, I mean, what's easier, gang? You hit the person with 2 health states or the person with 1, you know? And even then, what's easier? The person who only needs to get hooked 2 more times or the person who needs to get hooked 3 more times? Killers like clown are pushed to where they're playing 100% entirely around hook efficiency and 100% and entirely around what knowledge that they have because they can't afford to take risks. You can't afford to take risks because you lose the game off of risks. Quite literally, it's if you make that situation I talk about in the early game and you lose track of the survivors you had near the hook, the generator gets completed. You can't start a chase with someone near the generator. You can't return to the hook to start a chase with people who are at the hook. You're not going to be able to create enough lasting pressure if the survivors play efficiently and well before all the generators get completed. Whether or not they have toolboxes or anything, that's just a wrap. And when there are 2, let's say there are 1 or 2 generators left. If you don't have any kills, let's say this too. Let's talk more about that. About the whole camping and tunneling. If you as clown have only 1 or 2 generators left and you don't have anybody dead, those generators are getting done. One of the biggest problems with 1 to 2 generators remaining and defending them as clown is that 2 survivors can complete a generator in about anywhere, let's say on average, about let's say 50 seconds. You know, either the absolute time, prove thyself or not, it's like 47 to 52 second range, so don't quote me specifically. But that is enough time, 2 survivors on a generator, to make it to where you are trading 1 generator for 1 hook. So if no survivors are dead, you have one survivor in chase, you have two survivors that are working on a generator together, and you have another survivor that is also working on a different generator by themselves. That is going to be one generator and a half for one hook, and then the next hook is not even going to be finished. There's a damn good chance that the second chase that you start after you get that hook, there's now one gen left, they're going to finish that generator before you finish your chasing down that survivor, and now things become very much more interesting and problematic because adrenaline comes into play. And adrenaline is one of the biggest swingers for Clown from going from having any kills to you literally get nothing. Because if you are chasing, let's say you have someone on the hook and you are chasing someone else, that survivor on the hook, when that generator pops, they get 2 health states off the hook if they have adrenaline. If you are chasing a survivor mid-chase and you have them injured and you are close to getting that down, that survivor gets healed to full and they get a bunch of distance away from you from the exhaustion. You're not coming back from that because you now have to break chase from this person. You would now have to start a chase with someone else unless you do commit to that person, in which case, good luck downing them through 2 health states again in the sprint burst, right? The speed boost. And what that means, excuse me, gang, I was looking at some sound settings, is that you almost might as well just go and just stand in a corner. Because even if you do manage to down and hook somebody, you do manage to put them on the hook, and then you start to camp the hook, what's going to happen when all of the survivors heal up and they come in for the unhook save? They're going to body block against you, they're going to unhook their teammates, they're going to have the gate already 99 and or already opened, and they get out. You know, I've always felt that a big part about what makes the endgame so punishing is not just adrenaline in its current state. I really do feel like adrenaline needs to not give you, for one thing, 2 health states off the hook, but I think there needs to be more done to give it limitations. I feel like, for one thing, possibly, maybe look at how it doesn't benefit if you're exhausted. I don't know. We'll talk more about, I mean, like, that's, I think, more for a different discussion. But it's everything that I just talked about is why you don't ever want to go into the endgame with all survivors alive, because you're not be able to salvage the pressure, the altruism. Survivors don't have any objective beyond focusing on you and their teammates. There's no generators anymore to worry about. And that's just more reason to camp and tunnel. A survivor who gets tunneled out of the match, they're not getting any value from adrenaline. They're not going to be able to assist their teammates in an unhooking in-game scenario. They're not going to be able to get the gates 99. They can't assist with that. They can't heal their teammates. And that's sadly the direction of the game and where it's going. Now, as far as another issue, another bigger area of problems that makes it hard for Clown to compete against strong survivors, it's actually how easy it is to counterplay. A lot of people get distracted focusing on what happens when the Clown is right on top of you and how do you beat him in chase when he's got the yellow and the pink bottles and he's playing around the pre-drop pallets. They get really overwhelmed, especially when people look at my gameplay. But unironically, the way you counter Clown in chase specifically is very easy, and it's interesting to me how a lot of survivors don't really recognize it. It goes back to what I talked about when I said Clown has no map mobility. If you know Clown has no map mobility, and he has to hard commit to a survivor in order to put pressure on them, to get a chase going, to take health states and to down them, to get hooks, he has to get right on top of you, then the best way to prevent that is you just run away early. It's called pre-running, if you haven't heard of the term in DBD slang. But yes, you pre-run. You run away early. If Clown is going against a team of survivors, and you don't need sprint burst for this, by the way. You especially don't need sprint burst. Sprint burst just allows you to be a little bit more greedy with your pre-running. But if a Clown is going against a team of survivors that all pre-run, then he's eventually going to have to commit to a chase that is ultimately going to be very bad for him, regardless of everything else that takes place afterward. Because, again, without a lack of map mobility, you have to play as Trapper, you have to go at 115 speed just to catch up and actually start the chase. And if you try to use any bottles, you're going to be set yourself from behind when you do get close. And that's only going to make it even more punishing for if you don't down the survivor, or even when you take your first health state and then they run forward even further away. A lot of survivors, what they do is they make the mistake of trying to immerse. And especially in the meta with Cigar Box being Clown's best add-on, trying to hide and immerse against Clown is really only likely going to result in you getting hit in a bad location and probably hit very quickly a second afterward. Probably some of my quickest chases, in fact, come when I'm playing against survivors that are trying to hide from me. Because a lot of times they don't have their exit strategy prepared. They give me that first hit, they freak the fuck out because they didn't expect me to know that they were there. They will run past a strong tile because they didn't process the idea that if they get found, they need to be going there. And I get a quick chase as a result of that. They go down in a bad location. But what happens if when the survivors don't try to immerse and they call out, especially that I'm coming, or they just use game sense and they just run away early? Well, then I'm just kind of sold out of luck. Because even with someone like me, I mean, gang, like everyone else, I don't play Clown in a magical different way from anyone else when it comes to getting closer to survivors. I move just as fast as everyone else when they play Clown, 115% movement speed. So, like anyone else, if the survivors I go against run away early, I have to deal with that. And it's almost always been negative pressure because, like, here's an example. Let's say you're on RPD West. RPD West is probably one of literally the best examples for this. RPD West has terrible angles for both your yellow and your pink bottles. You aren't going to be able, because of the way the turns are, you aren't going to be able to throw your yellow and then go through it by the time it activates. It's typically going to take too long due to how you have to take all of these turns as you move in one direction. And also, when the survivors pre-run, you're not going to have line of sight for your pinks. So even if you're holding up a pink, and you are holding it, and you are going for a long ways to catch up to them, good luck hitting them with that pink, which means you are playing just as Trapper without a power, and even if you wanted to use your bottles, you couldn't. It's one of the reasons I think it's one of his worst maps, because when you are put in that position and survivors are forcing you to play without a power, how are you expected to win? How can you be expected to win as a killer without a chase power or map mobility? And it's that easy. It was a lot worse during the MFT era. Back when survivors had 3% extra haste just for making a mistake, you would have survivors that would purposefully stay injured. Purposefully. When they were against a Clown. Because they knew if the Clown was coming and they had that knowledge, again, whether through game sense, voice communication, or even just perk aura reading, they can just leave early. And good fucking luck as a 115 speed killer catching up to a survivor that's moving now 3% faster when they are pre-running. You're not going to make it happen. And that's how simple it is, gang. A lot of people ask me, how do you counter Clown? Pre-run. If you pre-run and your teammates are on gens, you should win, especially if the Clown doesn't camper tunnel, because he's going to always be committing to suboptimal chases. In fact, the sheer decision of yours to pre-run may take whatever transpires following the pre-run, right? Like, let's say he does catch up to you. You do make it to a pallet loop. He does manage to down you relatively quickly after he catches up to you. Well, your decision to run early may have made it a viable chase. You may have actually bought enough time for your team. And it takes no intellectual input beyond running away. That's it. It's what's always, we'll talk more about map balance later, but it's always what's killed me about some of the maps like Haddonfield and Garden of Joy with respect to the tiles of the main buildings is the maps play themselves. So if you pre-run to those maps, given there's no input beyond running forward, automatically viable chase. You automatically win. And that's basically that's the other part about the whole camping and tunneling thing too, is just the ease of the Clown counterplay. Micro level, pre-run. Macro level, do gens. Because if the Clown breaks chase, right? Let's the whole pre-running thing, right? Let's assume we're gonna wrap up on this topic. Let's assume you're going against a clown, you pre-run against him, he commits a good bit to you, decides the chase isn't worth his time, he leaves, looks for another survivor. If they pre-run, same problem. And the whole time, that instance of going for one, doubling back to the other, got two other survivors still on generators, so he has wasted that whole time without starting anything, while two other survivors are on generators. And the only thing the other survivors had to do to avoid getting hit and to avoid making it harder for their team against the clown, just press W in the other direction early. So that's another really big problem. Let's also talk about Basekit mechanics. With Clown already being forced to being pushed into camping or tunneling in order to make up for the fact that he can't otherwise take efficient chases against multiple survivors, the new Basekit mechanics that the developers have periodically introduced to the game have only made it harder and harder for him to just hang in there with respect to closing out his matches. If you have to tunnel or camp on Clown in order to create that early pressure in order to win, and the developers make camping and tunneling even harder, then what that means as a result is that Clown isn't as effective of a killer. He goes down in overall viability and strength. How do you make that better by making him less effective at camping or tunneling if he's relying on that? You need to introduce a viable alternative play style in tandem with nerfing camping and tunneling, which is not something the developers have currently done at the moment. Now, I'll give them some credit. I'll say that the developers are trying, and I do genuinely mean this. I've been kind of looking at some of the perk changes that they have made thus far. You know, coup de grace is a fantastic example. The coup de grace change is probably one of the biggest things the developers could have done to making Clown more effective in chase, to have quicker chases, to make him less dependent or reliant on tunneling. It doesn't solve the problem, but it's one of the things that they have done at this point. You know, batteries included. It was nerfed and is getting undone in the next patch, but I think this is an example of a perk the developers introduced specifically to encourage killers to chase other survivors without camping or tunneling, because even if you are chasing a survivor that hasn't been hooked and you are they are taking you to an area of the map that has completed generators, you aren't entirely wasting your time committing to that chase, because the haste makes that chase faster and more efficient. So, I mean, I will genuinely give credit to the devs with some of the things that they have done, but at the same time, like I said, the problem still isn't fixed. And when we haven't reached that point yet, where the chases are efficient and consistently efficient, I should rather say, enough to where you don't feel like as Clown, you need to proxy your hooks and then tunnel the survivor once they get unhooked. You have to power through the Basekit mechanics. Well, then what's going to happen is you're going to left doing what I just mentioned. You're going to be camping, you're going to be tunneling. Even if they have 10% increased speed off the hook, even if they have an extra health state through endurance, even if you have to stay 16 meters away to prevent the self-unhook, and even if you can no longer grab survivors when they do attempt it. Until they do something that I mentioned and introduce a viable alternative play style where it becomes literally, it has to be effective. The whole spreading hooks, not camping, not tunneling, it has to literally be a strategy that will net you wins. And how they might do this is by rewarding you for spreading hooks. See, they need to do more than just punish you for camping and tunneling. If they don't want people to do that, right? You need to do more than just make it less beneficial. You need to reward the alternative and the opposite. Because if you just institute punishments and you just make it harder to do what the killer needs to do, right? Let's assume that you punish camping and tunneling so hard that it's so unviable, even when a killer like Clown is dependent on it, that it is less viable than spreading your hooks. Well, do you know what you have just done? Because that alternative that I just mentioned, the spreading hooks, isn't viable, and you've only simply punished camping or tunneling, you will never see this killer again. You will absolutely never see this killer or killers of this category again. Because if the killer isn't going to be able to win by camping or tunneling, if the killer isn't going to be able to win by spreading their hooks, Because for one thing, camping or tunneling is worse than spreading your hooks, and the spreading your hooks isn't viable. Then why the hell would anyone play this killer? It goes back to the problem where I mentioned you feel co-signed to lose when you sign on to play the game, which is how I have been feeling somewhat nowadays. And it makes me feel like with a lot of the stuff that has been introduced to the game, why not just play Nurse or Blight? There's a comment that'll be mentioned in one of my matches. I'll go ahead and say it now. People know me as a very dedicated clown man. I've got like 3,500 hours on clown. Could y'all genuinely imagine if I just spent that time on Nurse or Blight? I mean, really think about that. It almost in some cases is like borderline masochism spending all this time on clown of all killers, because the juice you get from the squeeze doesn't come at all to comparison to these killers, right? Nurse or Blight go a whole lot farther when it comes to what you gain out of your time spent playing them by comparison to clown. And as long as they keep punishing camping or tunneling when it's what clown has to do just to stay in the game, it's only going to feel more and more like that's the case. Nurse and Blight don't struggle nearly as much with these Basekit mechanic changes that killers like Clown do. And it's just another one of those little details that, tacked on with everything else, pushes people that play killers like Clown toward eventually saying, hey, this is too much, I'm going to consider playing a different killer. And I just hate to see it. Because on top of everything that I've mentioned even up to this point, we haven't even talked about map imbalance. Map imbalance, at least recently, is just gotta be one of the most aggravating parts about the game. Because on top of feeling like I have to camp and tunnel, on top of feeling like there are restrictions on my perk loadouts, I have to take Corrupt and Deadlock, I have to take Q, and I don't really have much else going out in my perks. Add-ons, I have to take Cigar Box and Garsh Makeup Kit. On top of feeling like I'm already restricted even here on then needing to camp and tunnel, the map becomes an issue. Because what happens if I get Mother's Dwelling? What happens if I get Garden of Joy? What happens if I get Haddonfield? Well, I'll tell you what, if I was in any one of those situations and I was running this build, I would be in a much worse position than if I was running this build, which is where that whole conflict comes from. You feel as if you're going to run a build like this, you now can't run this party streamer. See, notice how when you look at this loadout, I have the Black Ward, and this one has the party streamer. The reason for that is when you look at my add-on counts, it's much more economic and efficient, especially with how many makeup kits that I have, for me to go the feather with this to take the party streamer. But when you look at both the Cigar Box and the makeup kit, it becomes more efficient to use the Black Ward, and this means not only am I gaining less blood points for me, but I'm also in turn feeling less encouraged to give blood points for the other survivors. And if I am doing this, I'm not, I'm doing one of these two. You know what I'm not doing? I'm not taking a map offering. And as a result of those maps that I mentioned, Haddonfield, Garden of Joy, Mother's Dwelling, it could be Borgo, it could be even Ormond in a lot of situations, Area Crows. These are maps that you can just randomly get sent to. And a lot of the matches I've played recently, Leary's, that's another map I didn't mention. Leary's goes on that list of problematic maps for Clown, where I'm going against survivors that don't even bring offerings, and the game itself is just sending me there. My last session that I played, in a 2-hour session, I believe it was, within the first 2 hours, I got Haddonfield twice, I got Garden of Joy once, I got Leary's, and I think I got Mother's Dwelling. This is no offerings. This is just what the game itself sent me to. So put yourself in my shoes at this point. I'm 2 hours into my session. When I get the first match, like let's say the Haddonfield, do I think, okay, well, it's just Haddonfield, maybe I get a better map next time, right? Then the next match, it's like I get the Leary's. Okay, Haddonfield into Leary's, that sucks. Maybe I'll get a better one next time. Mother's Dwelling. At one point, one would hope and figure, right, that maybe you would get a map without having to bring an offering, right, as the killer, that would be in your favor. But, that was the issue, because then after that, Haddonfield again, and at that point, yeah, you kind of have to start thinking to yourself, maybe I need to bring a map offering, and that's terrible. That's no, at some point when you start reaching that point of playing a killer for one thing, where you feel like you can't even farm BP because you have to bring a map offering just so you don't get absolutely destroyed, that's when it goes back, why not play Nurse or Blight? Because the thing is, you play Nurse or Blight, you end up on Mother's Dwelling, you end up on Area Crows, you end up on Garden of Joy, you end up on Haddonfield. You're in an exponentially better position than if you were playing Clown. And as a result of map imbalance, Clown just gets utterly screwed. Because what happens, like RPD, I didn't even mention RPD. RPD, Leary's kind of somewhat in the same category. We talked about the ease of counterplay through pre-running. What are you as Clown supposed to do on a large horizontal map, especially one with strong structures, and you are going against survivors that run before the chase begins? How do you play around that? Well, for one thing, the best you can do is you just bring stronger perks. But what happens if you didn't do that? You're co-signed to lose. One of the matches we're going to be looking at tonight was on Haddonfield, and I ran this specific build right here. No gen perks, no corrupt, no deadlock to help me at all early in chase. And that meant from the very beginning of the game, survivors were able to start working on generators. They're able to rotate a lot easier because Haddonfield is a very small map. Y'all are going to get to see. And, you're also going to get to see the ability to start on Gensmith that they got the first few done very quickly. And the strength of the tiles themselves meant even trying to commit to a chase at the beginning of the game very difficult. Like these are all aspects of the problem. The elements of what makes these killers struggle. You get a map like this and you're not prepared for it because you didn't bring a build like this, you lose. You're co-signed to lose. That is what I have a problem with at the moment. Being felt like I'm signing on to lose. That's not to say you can't win on these maps, right? Because even if you do get these maps and you are running the loadout, it's just that the margin of error is so low. You basically have to not make a mistake on your micro gameplay, which means your bottles have to land where they need to land. You can't misplace a single bottle. You have to know through very good game sense and just prediction, and we're talking game sense without even having in some cases the information, and it's you have to hope the survivors also just don't even employ the basic counterplay such as the pre-running. It's a lot of hope. It's a lot of wistful thinking, I think is the best way to describe it. But further, it's also a problem for Clown and other lower tier killers that just pushes people away from wanting to play them entirely. So what we're about to look at next is going to be a match that I played using this build. I want to kind of show you guys what it was like when I did get sent to a bad map for Clown. Haddonfield can be capitalized on due to the strong structures, even though it is small horizontally. When I'm also, I'm not running Corrupt, I'm not running Deadlock, we'll get to see how that played out and how difficult things were. And then afterward, we're going to be looking at a match where I ran this build as a response to my experiences when I was on Haddonfield using this one. And we went to an even worse map, but still managed to get much better results. Let's see. Yeah, I gotta ask, why am I getting, like, the worst maps for Clown? Like, well, not I want to say, like, the worst, but, like, really, really bad ones. Like, anybody who watches me, if y'all notice that, anybody who's been watching me, like, for a good bit of time, like, I'm either getting Haddonfield, or I'm getting fucking Leary's, or I'm getting fucking Garden of Joy, or I'm getting Borgo, or I'm getting Mother's Dwelling, or, like, what the hell, man? When am I gonna get, like... I'm just gonna go by stairs. No, we don't. Well, that's really bad. Okay, well, this is already looking like 2-gen first chase situation. Yeah, and cheesy obsession. This is, by the way, situations like this, no joke, what we're having literally right now, you are on par to 2k max. You are on par to 2k max. Yeah, dude. Unless you just, like, rapidly, like, get that pressure immediately back. Like, this is close to bringing me back into the game. Like, you are literally close to 2k max at this point because 2 gens first chase. You're not going to be able to do anything but proxy or hooks. Like, that's literally the only choice you'd have at doing anything. And that's it. Because right now, I can maybe go for another gen. I can maybe do that. But I don't have any stacks now. You know, I don't have any momentum beyond what I started the game with. And if anything, my momentum's actually worse because I'm out of bottles. I have to reload. So, like, right now, what I'm doing is I am reloading so I can go back to the hook because I can't afford to go back to main. Main could be done as far as I know. Someone could have rotated. They finished with 2 survivors. You could have had a toolbox that I actually just didn't see because I wasn't paying attention. Finished with a toolbox. Like, there we go. I'm going to go ahead and break the Basekit VT. We're just going to tunnel out the Obsession here, especially since she's just leaving house. We're just going to tunnel out the Obsession. We're just going to have to play 3 perks because it's just what our pressure at the moment objectively happens to be. So we have to do that. In fact, because of how I expect the gens to get done, I am just going to go ahead and Q-lunge because we need to get faster quickly as we can. Let's see. Ooh. I can afford to get this set, I think. Right? Yes, hook over here. We can actually defend this gen, which is good. I need to get my bottles back. The map really isn't the problem at all. It's just the state of the gen speeds. Gen speeds are just fucking so absurd that, you know, you saw how that first chase went where I had to rotate because I couldn't hit the Carlos and converge off of that. If I didn't get a chase going and down as quickly as I did, I would have literally, it would have been 2 gens first chase. And we were close to that. Instead, we were 2 gens second chase. I'm actually going to go for this person now because I'm going to force them to... I need to reload and camp this out before I pick up. Could still get... I'm going to actually slug here. I'm going to slug because slug pressure, especially since I pulled them all off. You know what? Put the pink that way. Especially if they're just going to fucking follow me. The pink is the... I think she has OTR, dude. She has fucking OTR. Yeah, this is probably GG's because I wasn't close enough to body block the unhook. Yeah. Oh well. I mean y'all see our build, right? And y'all see what the map is, so let's see. Yeah. I might sadly have to put on all the boring perks again. I wanted to do some testing, but I don't think we're gonna be able to get any testing done tonight, gang. It just doesn't work, sadly. That's the results of my testing at the moment. It just doesn't work. That gen's done, that gen's done. I can't even afford, I have to go probably check this gen. Can't afford to commit to her. Let's see who unhooked over here. We can probably go check who that is. I can't afford to do anything else but get pressure on who I have. That is the Mikaela. We actually go for the Mikaela here. We have to get somebody out the game. Let's see. And the problem, yeah, 1 gen remaining, and that gen up there had a lot of progress. Remember gen up by main? That gen's at like at least 50%. Any beamers? No beamers, just medkit. I think we're good here. This is a 2k match at best. Thankfully, one of the things I love about 6400 DPI mouse is that type of shit. 6400 DPI mouse. I don't just play on controller, I do have play on PC. Excuse me, I do have a mouse, so. Kinda true. 99 sprint burst, interesting. I can't commit to chase. Too much pre-run distance with the exhaustion. Let me see. That actually didn't hit. Yes, I know he had sprint burst, but Q goes faster. Figured it would have ran out by then. Wait. Why'd he go down instantly? That couldn't have been dramaturgy. He seemed too fast for dramaturgy. Is that actually dramaturgy? Could have been dramaturgy. He wasn't injured, was he? He might have been injured and I didn't even realize it. Yeah, dude. He was injured? Ignore me, dude. I don't even know, man. It's like I got... Alright, well, at least because it's done, we just sit here and camp. Kick the pallet to get ready, sit here and camp. 2K outcome, like I said. Remember when I said 2K outcome? 2K outcome. I have a good read on survivor pacing. You know what I mean? Yeah, you're not gonna be able to if you have a chase like that with a build like this. And the thing is, I can't consider going for any of that. Nope, I just have to let him get the gate. I'll try and we'll see what fucking happens. Yeah, dude. This game is just so fucking annoying sometimes, because I literally know if I was a bladder nurse, I wouldn't be having this problem. If I had 3,000 hours on bladder nurse, I wouldn't be having the problem that I'm having right now with the fucking game. Is she on that gate? No, that gate's fucking 99. He's gonna hold W, isn't he? No, he done. Adrenaline off hook. That's just CBD, gang. You know, perks like that are made for Survivor, where they can get hooked however much seconds before the game ends, and then they get 3 health states. That's why I don't run perks like these. If I had forced Penance and the Unhook happened, he would still be injured, but, you know, my decision to run these perks. And I can't really do anything about this either. This is why you tunnel and shit, and you don't run these perks typically in higher MMR, because y'all see how literally I can't... Do y'all see why I proxy so close to the hook? And why I run Cigar Box? Yeah, game's over. That's my fault because I look 2 seconds away and I'm not running good add-ons and everything. So, whatever, gang. If these survivors are toxic, I won't say GG's. We'll find out. Oh, he's actually interesting. They're gonna try to make... let me see. Can I get this? I don't think I get this. Can I get this? No, I don't get this. Yeah. Oh, okay. That's just DVDs. That's what I'm probably gonna have to do, Matt. I wanted to test some fun stuff tonight, but we're getting nothing but the worst maps on Clown. And, you know, that's just sadly the state of the game. The state of the game is that you go against survivors that run really strong perks, you go to get sent to maps that are really bad for Clown, and you just lose. What's the point in trying to have fun and trying to run anything unique when, you know, that's what the game's like right now. How are you doing, though? So as you guys could see, not just based on the loadouts the survivors brought compared to my own loadout, but also the map we were sent to and how coordinated the survivors happened to play, there was no chance of me winning this match. There was literally zero chance. There were a couple of moments in the early game where I missed, I think, a single pink bottle, and it was a result of that pink bottle where I wasn't able to capitalize pressure. But other than that, this team was just on point. They rotated to the generators after I pushed other survivors off of them. They had perks that enabled them to play as efficiently as possible. They did the counterplay I talked about, the pre-running. And given that I didn't have any corrupt, I didn't have any deadlock, I didn't have any cigar box, I was not... There was no chance of me winning this match. And it was basically as like I mentioned earlier, I was co-signed to lose from the get-go. It was just basically like I logged on to DBD, I pressed the play button so I could lose this match. It felt like shit. I did not enjoy this match whatsoever because I knew that a big part of it was I voluntarily brought this build. I said, hey, let's test out the Starlight Feather. I want to test out this add-on. We'll test it without Cigar Box and we'll try a chase build. We won't take a meta build. That was the whole idea behind what you see me running. You know, I figured we bring a party streamer because these add-ons don't matter as much to where I need a black ward. This would allow me to help survivors. I didn't feel like maybe we would take a map offering. And I mean, y'all see what happened, right? Like we ended up not able to convert a chase with a non-obsession very early. We had to break the chase as a result of that because we don't have corrupt. We ended up going after the obsession because they were the only person we saw. They had sprint burst, they had anti-tunnel, and as we also see, they had the adrenaline. You know, like if we didn't take her out as soon as we did, if we put off killing the Mikaela too long, we wouldn't have even killed the Mikaela. There were 3 survivors with adrenaline in this match. So if I wanted to have any chance with securing pressure in the end game, these people basically couldn't be alive, or at least I had to kill as many as I could. Now, given that the match was so short, rather than just give y'all a summarization, I actually want to go and go through this match with y'all piece by piece because this match really was something. All right, so we start off somewhat around the corner side of the map. Now, I'm also going to have the sound off just to make things a little bit easier. We're going to have the video sped up as well. I immediately start walking toward main building and toward the back side of the map because I figure I'm going to catch a survivor either toward the middle of the street at this generator, or they're likely going to be over by main building and or this generator here. I don't really see anything that gives me a reason to commit there. I decide instead to push into main. And it's up here where I get a little bit surprised. I figured since someone was here, they would have just taken the window. A lot of survivors would do that. It's the safest call. But he opted for something a little bit more greedy. You know, he wanted to see if he could stay up here, I guess, and hope that he could get me to leave while he was still up here so he could get on the gen much more quickly again. And, you know, we were not ready for this. I end up missing a pink bottle. And as a result of missing this pink bottle, I don't catch him before he makes it to the window. As a result, I have to leave. I can't commit toward chasing the Carlos, and there's no value in kicking the gen. Because what happens if I decide I do want to kick this gen he's working on, right? We get up here, it's got about, I'd say about a piston or so. We come over here, he goes and vaults the window. I can't really worry about kicking this gen, because if I do that, and I do leave, he's going to come back up here anyways. He's going to undo that 2.5, the 2.5% that I kick in a matter of like probably, you know, literally a second. And then it's gonna, that time that I spend having to charge up the kick, it's just not gonna be worth it. So I don't even kick the gen. I just leave. And I go toward this person because I need to start a chase with somebody. And this person happens to be the Obsession Mikaela, who is probably the worst person I could be chasing right now because we need to build Stabiffle stacks. We can't afford to just be chasing the Obsession because I was not able to start a chase with a non-obsession survivor. While it's obviously better than nothing, it's not going to be generating me the pressure that I need if I actually do want to win the match, since I am going to be behind on all that momentum. And to make matters worse, she has Sprint Burst, which makes getting the pre-run distance even harder. I'm able to catch her at a pallet loop. I didn't want to waste any more bottles. We have 3 bottles remaining. If I misplaced any pinks trying to slow her down before she made it to the pallet due to the bottles having slow velocity, that could have likely meant that I didn't have the bottles to set up at this pre-drop pallet. And if I wasn't able to do that, she's going to chain from this pallet and she's going to make it across the street. I'd then have no health states. I'd have no bottles when it comes to trying to pressure her across the street. And I'd have to likely consider breaking chase with her again, which would put me back at square one, except while I'm at square one, the survivors are almost close to square 3. You know, you have 3 other survivors working on generators at this point. So that's why I haven't thrown any of the bottles yet. I waited till we get to this pallet that I know is always in front of this house. And we put the yellow on the other side because I know she's going to be running in this direction, especially if I don't stop moving. I need to push her and rotate quickly through my yellow while I have this momentum, because she is going to be animation locked by the pre-drop pallet. And then that's how I'm going to get my first health state. We put the pink over there because I assume she's going to try to commit to the pre-drop pallet loop. She doesn't. She leaves. She gives me the M1. And I only have 1 bottle left. Because remember, I did need 2 bottles to get this first health state. I have 3 bottles left as I'm coming up toward the Mikaela. Let's rewind it back a sec. We have only 3 bottles. So as wise I didn't throw any bottles here because remember, 2 health states, 3 bottles. So I try to see what I can get without just throwing my bottles like crazy. And this is where I start playing my last 3. You need the 2 to get the hit, especially if she was playing a bit more movement efficient. And that was kind of, or at least what I was concerned of. And that's what forced me to have 1 bottle left here. And so by using this yellow here, that's what allows me to get the hit because she's not able to get anywhere after that. You get more movement efficiency using your yellows versus your pinks. But I was essentially forced into this position as a result of missing that 1 pink bottle and not being able to commit to a chase off of that non-obsession at main building. So I get my first hook, which is the first little bit of pressure that I have, but again, it's not the pressure that we need. We don't have any stacks of Stabiffle. I went through literally all of my bottles. I'm not running Corrupt Intervention. I don't have Deadlock. I have no idea where the other survivors are on the map. I just know that they're doing gens. And that means when I do finally start a chase with my next survivor, it will be with 0 stacks of Save the Best for Last. Now imagine if I hit Carlos at main building. We'd be at 1 stack. Imagine if this Mikaela was a non-obsession. We'd be at 3 stacks. That would mean starting my next chase with a survivor. The first health state puts me at 4, which makes getting the down significantly easier, and that would also put me at 5, and that would be setting the pace for our momentum. Like, really think about that. The end of my next chase would put me at 5 stacks of Stabifla instead of 2. That's where we're at the moment. So we start going over here. I'm looking for survivors. I don't see anybody on this side of the map. I presume that I was going to find somebody over here because we had already rotated for the most part everywhere else. You know, we went to main building first in the center of the street. We didn't see anybody. We didn't see anybody as well when we checked behind the house before we went into the main building. So it was at this point I figured, okay, I'm very likely going to find 2 survivors over here. You know, we saw Mikaela in the back. We saw Carlos at the main. Surely we'll find either Rebecca or the new survivor skin. I can't remember what the name is. I think it's like Tribaro. And we don't find anybody. We don't find anybody. So at this point, y'all, we're getting close to about 2 minutes into the game, which is about 120 seconds. And we have not found a single survivor beyond the obsession that we have just chased. We have to return to the hook. Because the thing is, when you go back to right over here, look at me as I approach this side of the map. I don't have any info on where survivors are. I know these gens are not being worked on. But what I do know for sure is that there are at least 2 generators I know for a fact are being worked on. The one over by main building, the one in the back. Because we caught the Mikaela at that one and we caught the Carlos at the other. The thing is, with how much time has transpired since I was initially at that side of the map, in tandem with my lack of map mobility, my decision to come over here means that I don't have time to go back to those gens. I literally don't have the time. Because as far as I know at this point, if I choose to commit toward the main building and or the generator that is behind it, those generators get done before I get there. And if those generators get done before I get there, and if the survivors can tell that I'm especially coming in their direction and they start to pre-run early, I am committing toward a side of the map that has no objectives remaining. I'm committing toward a survivor in chase that already has a lot of preemptive distance, a survivor with 2 health states, and a survivor who has not been hooked yet. This is while I'm also now being close to, 3 generators remaining. So obviously I can't afford to do that. I am literally hamstrung due to a combination of a lack of information, poor map mobility, and not having any leniency afforded to me by my decision to run these perks. The co-signing to lose factor, co-sign to lose, because I didn't bring Corrupt and I didn't bring Deadlock. Everything that I just talked about right now pulls me back to the hook. I now have to go back to the hook. Because not going back to the hook is not the smart play. We don't have the information to make it a sensible play. It is a risky play that would otherwise lose the game. Because what happens do we see after I go toward this Mikaela? We start to commit toward her. We have to go for the Mikaela because we don't have any pressure on the Rebecca, and we know we're at a point where the gens are going to start popping. There's the first gen. But do you notice something about that gen? That's not the gen we caught Carlos at. That's the gen we caught Mikaela. If we caught Mikaela at that gen, and we chased her all the way to the side of the map, downed her and hooked her over here, that means that someone rotated to her place. They had either calmed it out or they had some manner of coordinating it, but that is the bottom line. They coordinated that. After I pushed Mikaela away, someone got on her generator, and her generator got completed shortly after she even got unhooked. You know, as far as I knew, that generator either wasn't being worked on and there had no reason to be there because we only saw 1 survivor there. It was the Mikaela, right? Either that or it just didn't have any progress worth kicking. And as a result of both of those things just turning out not being true, we lose the gen. We lose the gen on top of having to go back to the hook. And as you see, we're now in a position where we feel like we have to tunnel the survivor. Excuse me, tunnel the obsession. And tunneling the obsession with save the best for last, when you don't have Corrupt, when you don't have Deadlock, it doesn't matter that you have coup. You know, even or Rapid Brutality, you're going to lose all your gens. I'm already at the pace. What is it? We're 2 minutes into the game, and I'm about to hit 3 gens, and I'm only on my 2nd hook. Unless the survivors just get off gens at this point, there's no way that I actually get multiple kills while spreading my hooks. In order for me to salvage this match back, I have to hope that I just catch this Mikaela out again, and I hook her a third time, and so there's only 3 survivors remaining. But y'all are about to see there's a big problem with what's my plan here in trying to tunnel out the Mikaela. We've got her hooked in the middle of the street. There's Reassurance. We have no gen perks. We have no deadlock. We deadlock to block the gens if they run in for the Reassurance, and that means that the survivors could play around the pure efficiency of me choosing to camp the hook without deadlock. They can get some more gen progress in before they unhook. They don't have to worry about her going to the next state. And even if I try to pressure the hook close enough to attempt to counter the unhooking, well, now the anti-camp mechanic kicks in. You know, I can't grab them anymore either. So even if I do try to get the 1-for-1, well, they're still getting unhooked, which means all of that efficient time on the hook does work out in a net survivor favor. And to make matters worse, if I did do that, well, y'all are going to see that the Mikaela has off the record. So when the Reassurance takes place by the Rebecca, I know that I have to force the unhook. I can't just ignore the Rebecca. I'm purposefully chasing the Rebecca here because I'm trying to encourage somebody else to unhook the Mikaela, which does pull them off generators. And likely, since we have... Oh, never mind. I was about to say it would be someone who's not injured, but we are chasing the Rebecca. And we get the down here onto her. And since at this point, no one ended up unhooking just yet, I figure, okay, maybe we can play around this, stay outside of the anti-camp range, we can get our bottles back, we can definitely create a lot of pressure through the slug and the hook, but y'all are going to see where the whole problem with OTR comes into play. See, the way you counter OTR is you got to be closer. You can't be this far from the hook. You have to break it when it's still Basekit BT and survivors don't have a lot of early distance. I didn't do that here. And a big part of what even would have made it much more difficult, given that I wasn't on top, like on top of the hook when the unhook happened, Mikaela has sprint burst. So I'm about maybe 12 meters away, right? I'm like maybe 12 meters away from this unhook when it happens. Mikaela gets off the hook with off the record, and she has sprint burst. Y'all see how far away she is? You literally can't even see her on screen. There is no way you commit to this as clown. It is not a reasonable, like, if we're even talking about an injured survivor, by the way, right? This is almost even not worth your time. But the fact that she has OTR, that's GG's. That is literally GG's. Because, as I come to find out later, I didn't know she had OTR initially, because if you go all the way back, we're about 3.5 minutes in. If you go all the way back to our first chase, and when I downed her, let's go a little bit forward too, when I come back to the hook, she was coughing. Do you see how she's coughing by the pinks? That obscures the pain grunts that survivors make. So I didn't know she had OTR. I just broke the Basekit BT. And as a result, I ended up getting punished with that OTR later. So let's go back forward. Let's go back about 3.5 minutes. And we try to cut her off because I didn't know she had off the record. And this is when I have my realization, because I can hear her footsteps and I don't hear her, that I know she has OTR. And I just know that I'm fucked at this point. Because Rebecca gets picked up off the ground. I can't convert onto Mikaela, and she's the only one I have hook pressure on. And the generators have already gotten crazy efficient progress at this point. Not even just the generators that have already been fully completed, but just across the map. I have to leave Mikaela. I have to get something else. So I try to get Carlos. I down Carlos. I pick him up. I carry him to the hook. And the specific hook that I chose here, I wanted to get a hook that was in the corner. I figured this hook would be a bit more vulnerable. While it is somewhat close to main, the playground itself is kind of a dead zone. And I try to see if I can catch someone on this gen because I knew the survivors were on it, but there's not really anything I can do. I can't afford to kick it. Even if I wanted to, I have to go back to the hook. Do y'all see how quickly this unhook happened? Look at this. Look at this. All right. So I get this hook in, right, onto Carlos, and I start to leave. I go toward the street. And before I right as I make it to this car, I don't even have a chance to start a chase with anybody, okay? There is no chase. I don't even see a survivor. So I either what I do, especially given how far behind I am, and I know that I'm playing on attrition. Remember, I don't have anything to stall my gens, which means that any gen progress survivor gets is going to stick. I have to go back to the hook at this point. So I do go back to the hook. Part of why I went back to the hook was for one of two reasons. Either A, I can tunnel out the Carlos, or B, I catch the Mikaela. Because if Carlos is on the hook, then only those other three survivors can attempt the unhook, which means I have a 33% chance if I return to the hook of one of those survivors being the Mikaela. And sure enough, it was the Mikaela. So I think, okay, we can what we did, what one of my plans was, if we aren't able to tunnel the Carlos, we use the Carlos as the bait for the Mikaela. Now we can maybe take Mikaela out of the game. Pre-drop pallet plays. We've now hit 2 gens. I get my first health state. I have to play into the yellow bottle. No bottles left. And look at that. Do y'all see why I didn't even bother going for the Basekit kicks when I was at that side of the street? Do y'all see what I'm talking about when it comes to reading how quickly survivors do gens? Look at how far we are into the match, y'all. We're not even 5 minutes into the game. We are 4 minutes and 47 seconds, and I have lost 4 generators. About to say 2. We have lost 4 generators. 2 generators in the span of seconds. Mind you, at 4:32, we're at 3 generators remaining. We now hit 2 generators. We now hit about 1 generator. That's problem, gang. Look, we're 4 minutes and 48 seconds. Y'all saw, you go back to this one Unhook. Again, I didn't even have a chance to start a chase with somebody. You know, I go all the way, I hook. Well, I went back too far. You know, and by the time I had to come back here, the Unhook happened, and I had to commit toward the Mikaela, and I'm down to 1 gen remaining. You know, look at this. Here, let me go back a bit farther. We carried him to the hook. We had to go back immediately. We start the chase with the Mikaela. And then all the gens start popping. We have 1 gen left. So even though I do get the Mikaela finally out of the match. We are 5 minutes into the game, by the way. 5 minutes into the game, almost all the gens are done. Absolutely ridiculous to me. I now need to start a chase with somebody. I've got my first kill. Maybe I can win if I can get a second kill very quickly. But remember, I only have a hook onto the Carlos. I end up catching I think it's like the Turbaro or something. I'm not able to get the hit. He had sprint burst and a lot of pre-run. So I need to rotate at this point because I knew another survivor was nearby on this gen. I pushed through here. I thought he had sprint burst. Turns out that was balanced landing, which is why I miscalculated it. That was balanced landing, and balanced landing, given when it activated. You can coup lunge through exhaustion perks, but that's where that misplay came from. And yeah, I'm able to get another down here. But, you know, it's not enough, right? It's not enough, because here we are. We're 6 minutes into the game, y'all. Look at the time when we get this hook. We get this hook in about 6 minutes and 10 seconds into the match. We're just going to be sitting here kind of playing. We can't, you know, look at where these gens are, okay? Look at these gens. Look at these gens. Consider our mobility and consider how quickly that one unhook happened as well. 2 gens right here, 1 gen over here. I don't know which one of these gens are being worked on, and I don't know if there are any survivors nearby me that would attempt an unhook if I even attempted to try to pressure my gens. And if I did try to pressure my gens, I have no hook pressure on anybody else either. So I start to just play around the hook. I figure maybe we could kind of do something here. So I just kind of proxy nearby. Reassurance comes out. And, you know, I wasn't able to get onto the Rebecca. She was able to sneak it and get into main. I figure because there's no anti-camp mechanic, we just kick this pallet, we camp our hook in the endgame, and that's what we basically are left to do. There's nothing we can do. And, you know, it's like we're back to this point of not having agency. We had very little agency, it felt like, the close of the entire match, because we were literally coming back to our hook, and we weren't able to commit to chases with anybody. I think we chased Mikaela 3 times. We chased Carlos 2 times. We attempted a chase once with Turbaro. We attempted I think we had 1 chase with Rebecca. We had maybe 6 to 7 chases. Maybe. And the match is already over. We're talking 6 to 7 chases, not full chases. I'm talking just a chase, including if I break the chase early. 6 to 7 total. That's really, really low. So I end up going toward Turbaro because I figure what I need to do is I need to either... See, here's the thing. I either camp this hook and give them gate progress, which I didn't want to do, because you're going to see Turbaro comes over here. I either camp this hook and I give them the gate progress for free, and then I risk them getting out, because remember, I don't have Stabiffle stacks. We took out Mikaela early. Or I have to commit toward Tomorrow. I decide to attempt doing the latter, and maybe if anything, we just trade places when it comes to, Tomorrow. Or if anything, maybe I can return to the hook, right? The unhook hadn't happened yet, so I'm still chasing Tomorrow. We end up getting close around. I'm about to finally get my down here. We get my down. And I couldn't return now if I wanted to. See, if I wanted to go back to the hook, I could attempt slug pressure. Because remember, he's on death hook, right? The Carlos is on death hook. So if I did want to get the safest 2K, given that this person did go down in a relatively bad area to defend against exit gate escapes, he's got a hook right here in front of the exit gate, and you're going to see where I carry him later is also in front of an exit gate. There's not really anything that's going for me to secure the second kill. We can't hook him there because of what I said, so we take him over here. Look how close this exit gate is. They have 2 survivors already good to go. That gate's going to be 99. And I look away for 2 seconds. Look at this, gang. Look at this. I look away for 2 seconds to check the gate. Unhook happens. I even coup semi on reaction. But it's not going to matter because he just gets all the pre-run distance. I don't have any stacks of Stabiffle. 0 stacks of Stabiffle. And I didn't know exactly which turn he was going to take. And the problem with throwing your bottles is not only the bottle velocity, it's the cooldown. See, look at this right now. If I threw my bottle about right over here, and I did try to catch him, I would have likely not been able to get the coup anyways, especially if I missed, because of the cooldown on throwing a bottle and picking your weapon back up. It's faster with Starlight, but it's still not going to be enough, especially if the bottle misses due to poor velocity. I didn't want to be down on bottles going into this chase, and then not need it if I needed to do a combo chasing him out the door. You're making a lot of decisions on the fly as Clown because everything is baked into your bottle count. And as a result of me being limited in decisions in the endgame, because I made a single mistake with this bottle, I lost out on a second kill. Like, look at this again. We get the hook right here, right? I check for 2 seconds at this exit gate. I come back, unhook happens. If I had Cigar Box, I would just be camping this hook with Cigar Box, right? Like, I'd be just putting the yellow under me and be looking around, and they wouldn't be able to come in safely. I didn't do that. I couldn't do that because I didn't bring those add-ons. So instead, what happens is I try to make the most efficient play of checking on the gate. Nobody's there. Unhook happens for free. I try to chase. Look, do y'all see when I mentioned why I'm very selective with my bottle usage because of the velocity? Look at this. I try to hit it right there, and because I didn't have it angled a little bit higher due to its velocity, if, the velocity is what stopped that from hitting. If it was a little bit faster, even with the way it was angled, it would have hit. A combination of angle and velocity is going to be why you miss these bottles. I didn't know whether he was going around or going in. We didn't have the range with coup. I started the coup pretty quickly after because of the fast fault. That's the wrap, gang. You lose off of situations like that. I try to even cut him off using a yellow. Look, I use the yellow. I even try to get him with another pink, but the body block, even with coup, last second, doesn't matter. If I had Stabiffle stacks, I probably could have picked him up. But yeah, that's how he lost the game. Adrenaline off hook, y'all. Adrenaline off hook. Last real quick summarization on this endgame where we lost all of our agency, okay? He's on hook. We're chasing Tomorrow because it's either that or we just camp. And here we go. Right when we down him, full HP. Now imagine if they open the gate over on this side of the map, right? We do pick him up to carry it over here. Imagine if what they did, if I didn't pressure the Tomorrow, if he 99'd or opened the gate when he was on this hook. Let's go back here because this game pretty much is over. So back here at about 6 minutes or so, when we put him on this hook, and I'm waiting for the last gen to pop. And the gen stew pop. Look at where this gate is. Do y'all see that? Do y'all see how he's right here? Imagine if I didn't pressure the Tomorrow, I let him 99 or open the gate. They come in for the 2-man save. They unhook. He's full HP. The other person gets speed boost out the door. Rebecca body blocks for the injured person. GG's, you lose. That's... Why am I in this position? I'm playing Clown. I'm on Haddonfield. I didn't bring a strong meta loadout. The survivors did. Let's look at their perks, right? The survivors did. And as a result, you know, it's like I signed on to play DBD just to lose this match. And it's getting really aggravating, y'all. You know, just to kind of wrap up my thoughts on this match, this shit gets really, it gets really aggravating because I don't ever want to feel like my time spent is wasted. I don't want to feel like I am literally just playing the game for someone else's enjoyment, not my own. And as a result, what y'all are about to see next is me putting on a completely different build, where I'm running the super fun perk survivors love to see, because, sarcastically of course, because they work, and because you have to on Clown. And it's works much better at countering when survivors do play efficiently and run builds like these. Like y'all see this, right? Y'all see this? Y'all see this, right? Random Garden of Joy. We've gotten Haddonfield 2 to 3 times. We've gotten Leary's. We've gotten, like go over the shitty maps we've gotten in just 2 hours. We've only been live for 2 hours. And think about how many killer-sided maps have we gotten tonight? Not a single fucking one. Like, I'm tired, gang. I'm fucking tired. Do I gotta start bringing my own map offerings just to get us, to get something at the start of the match that's slightly in my favor? You get what I mean, right? He's playing this admittedly really well. Imagine if I didn't know how to do what I just did, by the way. Imagine if I didn't know how to do all of that. Do y'all see how hard I gotta work and the understanding I need to have with my bottles just to pull that shit off? The scratch marks are so bad, I don't hear her. I literally don't hear her. Holy shit. Have to reload all my fucking bottles. She's playing check really well. You know, sometimes I feel that way, 4-Leaf Clover, unironically. You know, I do wonder how much the devs watch my shit. They've probably seen me rage my fucking ass off. I do wonder sometimes if the devs lurk, because y'all notice they're throwing out all these clown cosmetics, right? Like, one thing I find so very interesting, clown is get so many fucking cosmetics. And so I'm like, I see you, devs, I see you. You know, it's a little bit interesting and peculiar, but I fucking see you, alright. 2 survivors going this way. Well, that's actually good. We have info from upstairs. I don't actually have to commit entirely just yet. Till they get a bit closer. Wait till they get a bit closer. Now we go this way. We want to contest the Unhook with our Force Penance. Probably could have done it a bit earlier, but I was afraid I wasn't gonna... I was afraid I would not hit him at the proper time to get Force Penance value because it would have been too early. Basekit BT and I have to wait it out, gang. Remember, I can't just swing, because if I swing, then Basekit mechanic. Don't have to run any perks for that shit. Let me see. Thought she'd play. I don't have the bottles for this. I have to pull back, otherwise she chains tile. Force Penance onto him. He's gonna get the fucking yellow because I fucking did that. She's got a pallet right here, doesn't she? No, she done. Live? No, just... Yeah. She's playing really well, and do y'all see the situation we're put in because of that? Imagine if we didn't have Corrupt or Deadlock, we'd be at 1.5 gens right now. 1.5 gens, and we wouldn't have somebody injured because they would have already healed. Imagine if I was a nurse main. Can y'all imagine if I was a nurse main right now? My chases would just be blink, hit, blink, hit, blink, hit. Or if I was playing Blight, you know, dash, bump, bump, hit, you know, recover, dash, bump, 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 hit. Yet I'm playing Clown, and it's calculate the angular momentum of the bottle's circumference before you 360 spin and dash, and then while it's mid-air, play around the trajectory and shift the survivors, you know, their direction back into the bottle's area within the cloud's bubble. Like, that's literally what I'm, you know, why play Clown when you have to do all this type of shit, right? FOV means because I'm trying to save my stacks, I don't get Force Penance value, which is always a great position to be in. Maybe if I just, you know, actually played on a PC and mouse, right? Because I should totally have to just not play on controller if I wanted to. Force Penance value, that's good. Give me another hit, please. I should just, y'all, that's the thing, right? Clearly the problem is just I'm playing on a controller. I just need to not play on controller, right? She is pretty funny. Do y'all know why she's not running, though? Did y'all know why she was pointing me and running? Because she wanted to get my attention. Do you know why she wanted to get my attention? Because you can have that much distance. Notice how she's running right now? Because she knows that she has that much pre-run distance. That's the thing about Garden of Joy. You can literally just stare in the killer's face without any concern because the map is slated and designed in such a way. You want to give me Force Penance value? The map is designed in such a way where you can just do that. You don't have to, like, remember how the killer is supposed to be scary? Well, not really. Not really that scary. You just stand and point, you know? Are they giving me more Force Penance value? And we're I guess, cheating. We're either cheating or we're hacking. We're doing something with our connection, but I guess some people need to do that. I don't know. Whether it was intentional or not. Maybe if it was intentional, they wouldn't have given me the down. Let's see. I was wondering why she was moving like that, yeah. I hid my red stain to make it a bit harder for her to perceive what I'm doing. You know, if there was actual auto-aim, when she tried to move like that, it would automatically snap on and hit her. If there was actual auto-aim. If there wasn't auto-miss, because that's what I think is the best way to really call it, it's called auto-miss. I wouldn't have to actually turn so fucking hard just to hit someone that's right in my fucking face. It could be lag switch, I don't really know or fucking care. Some people may feel like they need to do that, who fucking knows. Oh, it actually expired. I thought she was gonna have enough time for Basekit BT at that point. Woo! I love camping and tunneling. So much fun doing fucking nothing. Let's go check that gen. I love feeling like my fucking chase power doesn't matter because gens go too fucking fast, or that survivors can just fucking pre-run. You know what really sucks about pre-running, though? The biggest part about what makes pre-running so punishing is how easy it is. Not just because anybody can just pre-run, but it's so accessible to comms. Like, literally, RPD West is an example. Y'all know RPD West? If you are in voice comms and you're against Clown on RPD West, you should never get hit. You should literally never get hit. Because you have so much fucking pre-run. He's gonna have to commit this time, and he's gonna get hit by the pink. You have so much pre-run distance, and the way that all the... If we had real auto-aim, if we had actual auto-aim, people wouldn't be doing that, by the way. They would not be doing that. There we go. They would take the hit, you know what they would be doing? They would be taking the hit at the doorway, and they would be trying to get as much distance as they can. Yeah, man. Notice how all the gens still got done? Imagine if I didn't have Corrupt and Deadlock. Like, the survivors did what they did. They played really well, you know? They did play well, right? This isn't a bad team. I'm not insulting. She just fucking double back. I haven't said anything bad about this team. You know? This team did what they were supposed to. They played well. Only ever remarked on the state of the balancing, you know what I mean? All the gens did get done, even though we got the 3K, all the gens still did get done. Imagine if we didn't tunnel in camp, you know? Imagine if I tried to spread my hooks. Probably wouldn't have beat this team. See, I'm not afraid to admit where if I ran a different build or if I didn't tunnel in camp, if I would have lost to a team. We've had a good handful of teams tonight where if I didn't play this way, even with this build, I probably would have lost. The game, regardless of how skilled you are at a micro level, is not designed for Clown to be winning against high caliber teams. I know she has distortion, yeah, but I thought I know that, I just thought she, like, hit on the corner, and then, because I didn't have scratch marks, she snuck out when I didn't see. Enjoy my Adderall. Closest thing I've got is a yellow bottle. Golden shot. Okay, dude, stop. Good team. Strong builds, too. Like, y'all, I mean, this is literally... So she thought, y'all, we both must have gotten desynced or something. I think we both maybe got desynced. Because she thought I teleported, I guess, on her screen, and she... So unlike my last match, this time I decided to come more prepared. Instead of taking 4 chase perks, I took 1 chase perk, 2 gen perks, and a perk that made tunneling even easier. So everybody knows that I love Coup. It just facilitates faster chases. That's why it's in the build. Corrupt is going to do everything I've mentioned in this video, and it's going to stop survivors from getting that early gen progress. Once I'm able to start getting survivors hooked and I need to start camping and tunneling, Deadlock is going to make it to where it stalls out the survivors during that period of time so I can get my first kill by camping and tunneling. And lastly, Forced Penance is to ensure that survivors on the team, the other survivors, don't try to prevent me from tunneling out their teammate. Because that was part of a problem that we had in that last match, right? On Haddonfield, is that the survivors did come to the aid of their teammates. I didn't have anything to stop them from healing. They did have medkits. They had their teammates that they could rotate to help heal them because it is Haddonfield, and Haddonfield is a small map. You know, that was a big part of our problem when we were trying to tunnel in the Haddonfield game. But it's won the case for Garden of Joy because we have Forced Penance. And to shortly summarize what it does for those that don't know, Forced Penance is going to lock a survivor that tries to protect another survivor. It's going to lock them at the injured status for the next 80 seconds. 80 seconds. That's almost the time that it takes for a survivor by themselves to repair a generator. 80 seconds. It's exponentially the extra healing time added to if they were able to heal after just taking a hit with Sloppy Butcher. There is no counter to Force Penance beyond taking Vigil so it expires faster. There is no perk or hidden combination that will allow you, while afflicted with Force Penance, to become healthy again. You are forced to remain injured, and this is a very big deal, because when you are tunneling a survivor to take them out of the match, if their teammates come into body block and they get locked at the injured status, then that means they can't come in for the unhook save due to them being broken for 80 seconds. You're able to take those protection hits, down the person again you're tunneling shortly after, put them on the hook, and that is a guaranteed camp. Because they can't heal themselves from their team. They're forced to either do generators. And further, what happens if that survivor is on death hook and they don't realize till it's too late to force penance? Well, then things become even worse for the survivor team, because being locked at the injured status trying to protect a survivor that's on death hook means that once you down that survivor and you have them fully tunneled out of the match, you can initiate your next chase with a survivor who is guaranteed going to be injured. They can't heal mid-chase through syringe or any other shenanigans. The worst that you have to deal with is potentially some third health state, whether it's a styptic or a dead hard. But, if you are hard tunneling, they're very likely not going to be hooked, which means dead hard's not going to come into play yet. It's ultimately one of my favorite and most underrated perks when it comes to the current meta is Clown, because Clown has to tunnel. It makes tunneling a lot easier. You might be wondering, why don't I see this perk a lot in my matches? It's a comp perk. For those that don't know that. I try to whisper here. This is a perk you probably will only see if you play comp DBD, because it's the only time where you're going to see body blocking being done so judiciously. And further, it's only those caliber of players who put together 2 and 2 that's what this perk enables you to do, is tunnel more effectively. And that's kind of just basically what we're bringing into our match here. We did get sent to Garden of Joy by random chance. That goes back to everything I was talking about, where I said that it feels like I don't have a whole lot going for me when I load into a game. The most I've got going for me is my perks and my add-ons, which is why we see what we see here. Unless I bring a map offering, right? Unlike everyone else, you see everybody else here brought their BP, except for Rebecca. She also had a similar mind here, right? But, unlike me, she gets sent to Garden of Joy, which is a good map for her, and that's kind of part of the problem. Look at these survivors perks. They've got very much, for the most part, pretty strong meta loadouts. The double boon especially is going to be good on Garden of Joy. Triple med kits, which means that I have to commit to every single chase that I start with a survivor, because if I don't commit to the chase, the pressure is just going to be wasted. And this is especially true when you take into account pre-running. They have 3 med kits. If I commit to a chase with a survivor that pre-runs on Garden of Joy and I decide to leave after just getting an injury, that is always going to be a net time loss and efficiency, because we're talking me on one survivor not getting lasting pressure through a hook state. That pressure gets undone by that survivor without requiring the assistance of the other teammates, and that whole time they're doing their one and only objective, generators, getting them repaired. And even with the corrupt and the deadlock and our coup and everything, we still see by the end of the match, all of the generators get completed. It's just the only difference between me being able to get so many kills is that not only did I stall out the generators longer than usual and long enough using corrupt and deadlock, but Forced Penance prevented them from stopping me from tunneling. What ends up happening, and y'all are going to see, we'll talk a little bit about this match. I do kind of want to go over as well, like with the last one on Haddonfield, I do want to go over in video form the Garden of Joy match and things that took place. But yeah, what you end up seeing is not only did this stall it out enough for us, but this prevented them from stopping me from tunneling. And that's what pulled back in the end. They got all the gens done, but we still got our 3K. All right, so the same thing as before. We're loading into our match. On Garden of Joy, we spawn a bit more toward main. I checked to see if someone brought an offering because I couldn't believe we got Garden of Joy again. We are going to toward Indoor Corrupt Web because I expected a survivor to spawn there. I was trying to get a very, very quick chase overall. We don't see a survivor, so we rotate into our non-corrupted web, since this is where I expect to start finding survivors rotate now that they see I have corrupt intervention. We see Rebecca, we start our chase, but look at all that distance that she has before we've even really begun to catch up to her. We are also invigorated by our yellows. We're down 2 bottles, trying just to catch up and also keep eyes on where she's going, because she is running into a high wall tile, which means that if I don't have this information, she could double back towards Shack if I'm not ready for it, and with her having 2 health states remaining, I wouldn't be able to convert off the chase. I would have to consider breaking chase early. So anyways, we get this yellow to get on top. She makes it to the pallet just in time. We set the pink because I know she's going to have to drop this. We respect possession, and she doesn't drop it. Notice how she doesn't drop it. Why does she not drop it, do y'all think? She doesn't drop this pallet because she realizes I'm expecting her to drop it. She knows that that's part of what I'm expecting her to do. So she respects it in the possession. She concedes, and she's hoping that she can make it back to the pallet even with conceding possession before I can get the hit. The only difference is that I have a lot of practice at this tile. I've played this one specific pallet loop multiple times, and I know how to play off of the momentum even if I don't have the yellow due to my extra duration from Garish Makeup Kit. And that's how we're able to get the M1 and push her toward this corner, push her away. We take her to a high wall jungle gym. I'm expecting her to go all the way around because I'm thinking she doesn't actually want to play the jungle gym. She wants to make it to main building. And I was wrong. She actually does come back to the tile, which ends up wasting a lot of my time. We end up having to catch her out over here, and I'm trying to push her. I don't want her getting toward the back because she does seem she does seem pretty confident in that area, even though we got the hit. It would take time to get the down if we went back there, if I, enabled her to make that happen, because compared to that pallet loop, right, the one in the back corner, this one little rock loop that we come up to is much weaker. It's a lot easier to get the hit at this rock loop over here than it is to get it at that car tile in the corner. So we do end up having to get the mind game. She's very, very strong, had very good movement. And we get our first down, y'all. Look at this. Look at this. We have corrupt intervention. We have deadlock, okay? We get our first down at around, let's say, 77 seconds into the game. 77 seconds. So imagine if I didn't have corrupt at the moment. We would be looking at 2Gen's first chase. Didn't it seem like I found the survivor rather quickly? We checked one little area of the map at the start of the game, didn't see anybody, didn't even hard commit to checking that area. We rotated toward a different area, right? We saw a survivor. They had a lot of pre-run distance. We even had yellow bottles to give us a little bit of an edge on that pre-run, and we had an add-on to make those yellow bottles last longer. Yet at the end of the day, especially due to that, what took place at this well with that high wall tile, our first down came after 77 seconds, which means that the only way I could have avoided a 2Gen first chase beyond a survivor just giving me free tags, assuming they played similarly to this Rebecca did, I would have had to have literally not made a mistake with my bottles in chase. Not made a single mistake. I would have had to not made a single mistake at the mind game. And that is the borderline requirement. Think about that. If I don't play literally perfectly without the perks in my loadout, I'm at 60% objective progress remaining. That is ridiculous. But thankfully, we do have corrupt and deadlock. But, it's still not enough, and y'all are going to see, right? We get our hook, we carry them, we get our first hook in, a little bit in a vulnerable spot. I specifically chose this location because I'm looking to tunnel her out. This is a vulnerable location compared to the other hook choices we could have done, right? Especially closer to main. So I get my first hook, I figure they're looking to get gens done. Main is typically something survivors like to do. I would personally suggest saving it for later, but survivors like to do main early. We catch Kate, we get a free injury, and right as we get this injury, gen gets completed. Now remember, y'all, we have corrupt intervention. Corrupt intervention, which means that the generators, a good portion of them were blocked. These were the ones not blocked at the start of the game, one of the ones that they completed. But do y'all see how long we are into the match? We are 1 minute and 43 seconds. It takes 1.5 minutes to do a generator for a survivor to do one solo. 1.5 minutes. They did this generator with corrupt active at the start of the game, which means they rotated through my corrupt. They got it done effectively 13 seconds after it would have normally been possible. It's ridiculous to me. Like, really, y'all, the whole point of running corrupt is to not be looking like you're going to lose 1 to 2 gens in your very first chase. Yet here we are. First chase, 1 gen done through Corrupt. So anyways, we continue. I see that we push the Kate out. Kate's not going to be able to attempt to do anything about this hook because she's injured. We see that it was 2 survivors who did that gen. That was how they were able to compensate for my perk. They just powered through it. That gen's done. Which also makes my 3-genning harder on this side of the map. And that means that anytime I commit to spending over here, by the way, is not going to be near objective progress. And since I see that the Renato is now coming in for the unhook, this is my time to contest. Now, why do I not swing right now? There are 2 reasons why I don't swing. One, I was afraid of the game not registering when I did hit the M1, and I would be in recovery animation with the unhooking still happening, and that would mean I wouldn't be able to apply force penances effectively. I was concerned about that. I was concerned about using a coup stack to even make it happen to begin with, right? Imagine if I used the coup stack and then what I just mentioned is what transpired. So not only did they get the unhook, not only did I not apply force penance, because that's the thing. If you do M1 too early, you don't apply force penance. You have to wait till the unhook is fully complete. You know, that would have put me really far back in momentum. And you want to play a little bit conservative with your coup stacks until you're flowing at like 4 to 5. We're still only down 1 gen. We still only have 2 coup stacks. I don't know when I might need to coup. I don't know if I need to use it even maybe to snowball to pull back that pressure. That's why I'm not immediately thinking to myself, okay, I'm going to just throw away one of these stacks just to hit the Renato. So I purposefully walk up and I wait. That's why I walk up and I wait. I wait till the unhook animation is fully completed. Then I M1, force penance. He's broken. And I want y'all to look at this. We're 2 minutes and 5 seconds into the match. I want y'all to look at the fact that Renato is injured, pay attention to what is all taking place in the match while he's still broken, and look at how long it takes him to actually get healed. So we commit to our chase with the Rebecca. She's injured. She doesn't have any anti-tunnel perks. I'm waiting out the Basekit BT, and one thing I absolutely hate, gang, is counting to 10 every single time someone gets unhooked. Maybe I could have downed her within 10 seconds. You know, this wasn't one of those things that I was paying micro attention to, as in 1, 2, 3. I get tired of that. I got tired of that a couple months into the Basekit mechanics. So we eat the pallet stun. She ends up chaining away from the tile. She takes us back to the corner loop. And this is actually what gives us a lot of pressure. Now, notice how Renato is injured. He can't heal. There's no way. We know that if we're applying zone pressure, if we have him sliced into this corner, he's going to stay injured, and if he offers us a free hit, we can snowball. Remember when I mentioned I wanted to save my coup stacks? Since I now have 2 coup stacks, if Renato were to offer himself to me, I could slug Renato and go for the Rebecca. So that is one of the advantages of doing what I mentioned, right? So now he is trapped in this corner. He can't really get out, and similarly, so is the Rebecca. See, he's trying to get out right here, and if I was actually more paying attention to this, he's actually in coup range right here. This is almost like literally a coup. I could have done what I just said. I could have slugged him with this one, and then while he's in the corner, I could have gone for the Rebecca. Even if they were to pick up the Renato because he's afflicted with force penance, he couldn't get fully healed. They would only be taking him off the ground, and they would be having to commit to the corner to do that, which means they're committing away from the generators that, like I said, are on the other side of the map. And that means that we're getting even more efficiency out of our tunneling. So everything really does play into the perks that we're running and how we're allocating our pressure. The decision to tunnel and the decision to wait till he got unhooked to apply force penance, as well as that decision to hold on to our coup stacks, even if I didn't use the coup stack here to get him. Now, where things did kind of go wrong for me is I fucked up this yellow, because, again, she was playing this tile very well. I mentioned that earlier. The idea behind this yellow, I wanted it to go over that back side of the fence so I could rotate in, and then I was going to do some more pink setups, and at the very least, I was going to get a hit on Renato or the Rebecca as they considered trying to get away from me but going into either my pinks, right? So that was kind of what the plan was, except I fucked up, and me missing that yellow and allowing her to get it meant that I had to now, due to time efficiency, I can't just spend 50 years playing a pre-drop palette. What I now needed to do was I needed to play around how I have this yellow, especially for the extra duration. I need to play around the fact that she doesn't have any other resources in this area. And when she least expects it, notice how she's on the other side of this car, that's when I'm deciding to kick. I was expecting her to double. See how she almost does it? She actually does it for just a sec. That's what I was playing around. The little mistakes in movement when I do need to kick this pallet. She comes in, she starts to double back till she sees I'm actually kicking it, and now she's going straight through the yellow to get the refresh and to get away from me. She gets the vault. If she had live, I wouldn't catch her, by the way. If she had live, I would be SOL. But she didn't have live. And since she doesn't have any other resources besides this pallet, I'm able to hit her with my Q. That's hook number 2. Now, why is no one here for this pallet stun? Because they're doing gens. This whole time, I am pressuring Renato and the Rebecca. That's 2 survivors. That means that the only survivors who could be doing gens are Mikaela and Kate. So going back to what I did, I get this kick, I'm looking to chase, and because they're doing gens, because Renato is injured and he doesn't want to risk the snowball potential because he sees that I'm running Forced Penance and I'm playing this hyper aggressive, this makes this pickup free, which makes my second hook. That makes the second hook, well, I don't want to say free, but it makes it efficient. It makes it worth my time. So I get this second hook. I start trying to rotate away from the hook because at this point, I'm kind of trying to encourage a bit of an early unhook. I'm playing around the fact that I don't think they're ready to counter my use of Forced Penance in the way that I'm tunneling, especially since I know that the Rebecca doesn't have any tunnel perks. So that's kind of what I'm looking to, I'm trying to play into that. And that's kind of why I'm not immediately on it. There's also the anti-camp mechanics, right? If I sit too close, she could unhook herself, which means that they have efficiency on the generators. These are all things you got to pay attention to. So she does get unhooked sooner than what would be better for them, which is what I want, which means we're able to initiate our third chase much easier. And this is what really, really sucks. I was trying not to lunge, because a lunge would have ensured I got the hit, even with the jankiness of the FOV, but I end up missing this M1. And that M1 onto the Mikaela would have been insane, because now she would have been broken. That would have been 100% the conditions to trigger Forced Penance due to Rebecca being injured, due to me being in chase simultaneously with both of them. It doesn't matter that Rebecca's on the other side of the wall. It only matters that all of the other conditions I described with her being close enough for me to hit her. That would have applied Forced Penance, but instead she's healthy, she's able to leave, and we're going to see where that bites us again later. So I end up chasing the Rebecca. I end up kind of making a bit of a blunder here when it comes to playing this. Kate shows up to provide some support. I don't immediately hit her for a reason, because I know that Rebecca's trying to get to main, and one of the best ways to get to main is if I were to hit her right there. So instead what I do is I wait till she's at the back end of this pre-drop pallet, so that way if she is to try to get away in this direction, she's not going to get to main, she's only going to get more toward this high wall tile, which is what happens. And what happens here too, you notice how she's broken and injured, you notice how the Mikaela just leaves. Why isn't the Mikaela trying to come in and support the Rebecca? Because they realize if they do that, everybody's going to be injured, and they see that some people are getting hit to where they can't even heal. Mikaela's already thinking to herself, something's not right here. She's literally thinking to herself, okay, I can't body block because everybody's getting injured. People are staying injured for a long time. Body blocking is not the call. I need to get on gens. Now, how long into the match are we, y'all? We're about 4.5 minutes into the match. Y'all notice that Renato is still injured? We hit him a single time at 2 minutes into the game. It's been 2.5 minutes. Renato is still injured. They finish another gen, because remember I said that's what they need to be doing. It was the Renato, as well as I think it might have been one of the other survivors. It might have been the Mikaela. Kate's over by main, so I don't think it was the Kate. And because Renato is still injured as a result of that one Forced Penance hit, remember, he got hit back at about 2 minutes. That's what allowed him to get injured to begin with, and he's still, for this chase as a result of that, only got 1 health state. But here's why we end up not chasing Renato. As we're coming around trying to get him at the pallet, Mikaela shows herself. Notice how she's healthy for this hit? If we had hit her earlier, because I didn't blunder and whiff that M1, she wouldn't be able to do this. Because if she did do what she just did, when she was injured and afflicted with Forced Penance, she would get slugged under this pallet. I could catch Renato, as I did earlier over here, I could slug him. And then if I find Kate, that's a 4-man slug, that's a wrap. That's the game. That's one of the advantages of Forced Penance, is we just created a snowball opportunity that becomes even easier, because remember, I have Q, I have 4 stacks at the moment, which makes getting that slug through Q even way easier, not just even easier, way easier. But it's a result of that body block that she does at this palette that I do have to quit chasing Renato. Because he's going to a strong structure. You'll notice how he's going towards Shaq, and I basically, he's able to get all that distance as a result of the body block. I would rather play these jungle gems, especially rotate and play off of momentum. I would rather do that than commit to Shaq and have to set up around Shaq, especially since the palette on Shaq spawns at the back, which means that survivors force you to rotate around if you want to get a kick at a good angle, because otherwise you're just letting them go toward the same side of the map we're going after you kick the palette. It's a very troublesome killer Shack compared to other maps, just the way that it's structured and the fact that palette always spawns there. But I digress. You know, we're back to chasing the Mikaela, and we have desync. That's what happens here. I didn't know it at the time. I thought she might have been cheating because, y'all, I've seen it all. You know, I thought maybe she was cheating, but then I was like, you know, if someone was cheating, they wouldn't give me the down like this. And so we get a hook onto the Mikaela. They're only just now healing. It is only just now, as we're downing the Mikaela, right? We're catching up to Mikaela. We're going back toward main to down her for our first hook on someone who's not Rebecca. It's only now that Renato is full HP. This is about 3.5 minutes, y'all. 3.5 minutes is how long he was injured from a single hit because of forced penance. It just wasn't efficient for them to rotate, and the only time it probably was efficient before that 3.5 minutes, y'all, you know when that probably was? While he was still broken. Because sometimes that's what happens. You're thinking, okay, I need to heal right now. I can heal right now, except I can't because I'm broken. And then when I finally can heal, I find a teammate, the game won't let me, you know, because of the status effect. And she is still broken as well because from when we hit her earlier. But we end up committing to the tunnel here because I know she doesn't have any tunnel perks either. I figure we still have a lot of plenty fresh time on generators, and I'm able to just get a very quick chase, take her out of the game very quickly, and worst case scenario with deadlock, even if they do get one more gen done, I should still get the 3K. That was kind of the longer strategy, you could say at this point, what I had planned out. That's kind of why you see me go a bit further away, because I want to take advantage of them getting an earlier unhook, which means that the survivor isn't getting more efficient time being camped on the hook, right? The survivor that sits on the hook and doesn't hit the next hook stage is only just more efficient time for their teammates if their teammates are on generators before they unhook. So that's why we left. We wanted to get that unhook early. And this gets me my third health state tunnel, you know? We're able to get her out the match. One generator's about to pop. It pops right now. And deadlock is still active. That's the other crazy thing too, y'all. Keep in, you know, take into account. We've got deadlock. And we had corrupt. Yet all of the generators are about to be completed. Imagine if we didn't have corrupt and deadlock, we brought the same build I ran before. This match would already be over. I can very confidently say this match would be done. So we're looking for our next survivor. We don't really see anybody where they were. I know they were initially working on the gen back there, but I'm expecting to find someone over here, which I do. Field skill check plus the, you know, the setup with our cigar box. And this is kind of where the game itself really wraps up. There's not a whole lot to this beyond just a couple chases. You know, going a little bit of a rant here about how people do the stuff with the corner. They wouldn't be doing that because of aim dressing, but you know, this isn't really anything too spectacular. It's just a regular chase. We get our down. Following that, we pick up hook. Last gen pops. Remember, we had deadlock, right? We had deadlock after that hook. She rotated, still got it done through deadlock. That's how efficient this team was. They still get all the gens done. And, you know, distortion meant that I lost track of her. I thought she was trying to hide. I didn't hear footsteps or anything, so I wasn't really sure. And yeah, 3K right there. And it would have also technically been a 4K too. You know, we were kind of going easy on them, or excuse me, not go easy on them. I mean to say we did end up letting the Kate go, is what I mean to say. So I felt they played really well. And yeah, I can confidently say after the Haddonfield match, after what I saw, especially in this match, I'll go ahead and just go a bit farther past the chat because they didn't know about the desync. I can confidently say I would not have beaten this team had I brought a less meta build on this map with how they played with the loadouts they brought. it likely wouldn't have happened. And hell, I'll even say that what if I went for the Renato first? Y'all see how Renato has some really damn strong perks. He has the Dead Hard support if he doesn't get tunneled. He has the OTR if he does. He has the resilience for the vaults. You know, like I would have been, you know, who knows? Maybe it would have been a 2K match if they played optimally with those perks getting the most value. You know, but that's everything. What I've tried to contrast between this Garden of Joy match and what I just played on Haddonfield is is basically just meant to summarize what's just made the game so frustrating at high level play for Clown. I feel like when I play Clown, I need to run what it is that you see in front of us. You know, I have to run Corrupt Deadlock, Coup Force Penance. I have a whole detailed section on this specific build for that reason. This build I know works, and I don't feel like I have a lot of agency for flexibility. I can't just say I'm going to run add-ons that are less viable for testing. I can't say that I'm going to run a full chase build because I'm just going to lose 2 gens first chase consistently every single time. Unless I bring my own map offerings with these chase builds, I'm going to be getting sent to maps where there's no way I could apply the pressure to stop the gens, even if I wanted to when I had a good chase. It's exhausting. It's exhausting. And I know I maybe have repeated a few things a couple times in the same manner, you know, different points throughout here, but I mean, that's how they keep coming up. And I'm tired, gang. I'm tired. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to learn how to play Clown like I do and handle high-level strong survivors, I have a very, very detailed Clown guide that even goes into macro decisions such as tunneling and camping, how to do that better. It goes into how to run strong Clown builds. I also do have I have a stream on Twitch. I stream my matches during the weekdays. If you want to see what high MMR Clown looks like in a live setting, then feel free to check that out as well. But other than that, gang, I really appreciate y'all watching and for sticking through this one. It's starting to get a little bit exhausting for me, but I'll see y'all next time. Later, gang.